All right, intermediate algebra, we're going to go ahead and do some notes. So this is the notes for the next section, 2AA. All right, so for this first example, we're going to talk about reducing fraction. So we've got 2 over 4. So if you remember to simplify each fraction, what you're going to do is find a number that you can divide both the top and the bottom by. I like to start with a smaller number, so in this case, it happens to be 2. So, and we can divide both 2 and 4 by 2. So if I go ahead and I divide that top by 2 and that bottom by 2, I'm going to get my new fraction to be 1/2. And that is my final answer. So for simplifying fractions, find a number you can divide the top and the bottom by. Next example, 300 divided by 500. There's a shortcut when you've got these that have zeros. If the zeros at the end, you can cancel out however many zeros match the top and the bottom. So these 2 zeros can go, and these 2 zeros can go, and I'm left with 3/5. All right, last example for simplifying these fractions is 68 over 140. Now you can spend a ton of time going through your brain and be like, all right, something that goes into 68 and 140. I don't do it that way. I do it a little simpler. If I see an even number on the top and an even number on the bottom, I divide them both by 2 to start, okay? So I'm going to divide this by 2 and this by 2, and I'm going to get 34 over 70. Now I'm going to look at that and be like, hey, look, I can still divide both of those by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 one more time. I'm going to get 17 over 35. And you can look for numbers that you can divide those by. I'll tell you for these two, there aren't any other numbers, so you're good to go. You can just do 17 divided by 35. All right. Next step is writing mixed numbers as improper fractions. So if I have 1 and 2/3, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and you may remember this is kind of like going way back, you guys have been doing this for a while, is I'm going to multiply the bottom times that number, and then I'm going to add the top. So I'm going to do 3 times 1 plus 2, which is going to give me 5, because 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. Now the denominator never changes though, so it always stays 3. So I'm going to put a star. Denominator doesn't change. All right, I'm going to circle that and box that up. All right, my next example is 3 and 6/7. What I'm going to do with that, again, same process, is I'm going to multiply and add. Okay, multiply the 3 times the 7, and then add the 3 and the 6. So I'm going to get 21, which is 3 times 7, plus 6, which is 27 over 7. All right, and the last one of these, this one is just one little change. This is -5 and 2/5. Okay, same process though. I'm still going to multiply and add. So 5 times 5 is 25, plus 2 is 27 over 5. However, one thing that I can't forget is I have a negative out here. It doesn't change. The negative doesn't go away. It stays there. So I'm going to have -27/5. Okay, and that's my answer for that one. All right, so writing is mixed numbers. So it's important when I'm doing these notes that you're listening to the words that I'm saying, because, hold on, I made a mistake on that one. Where's my eraser? There it is. That's not the example I want you guys to do. So we'll write this down, and you're going to have to follow along and figure out where this goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look, and I'm going to try to figure out the biggest number, or the biggest amount of times that the bottom goes into the top. So if I look at 7, I'll say 7 times 1 is 7, so it can go in 1 time. So that equals 1 whole, all right? And then the fraction is the amount that's left over. So if I use up 7 out of 10, I still have 3 left, which goes on top, over 7, okay? So that's that piece. Next, if I have 30 over 11, I can look at 1, but 11 goes into 30 more than once. It'll go in at least 2 times, which would give me 22. right? Because 11 times 2 is 22. And then again, let's do some mental math that if I have 30 minus 22 means I have 8 left over. So 8 over 11. Okay. And that's how you do those. All right. This is the part of class where I would ask you to give an answer and I would wait, but none of you are here because I'm doing this on video. So I'm going to give it to you. So you need to find a common denominator when you are adding and subtracting fractions, okay? That is an ugly color. I don't want to use that color. I'm going to change that. That's gross. Let's try this. Let's go with bright yellow. Oh, that's better. There you go. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to find a common denominator. So here's your first problem. We have 2 over 6 plus 5 over 12. When I'm finding a common denominator, what I'm usually looking for is I check the bigger number first to see if it'll work. So as a common denominator, so I have 6, and I know that if I multiply 6 times 2, I can make it 12. So I'm going to multiply this first fraction by 2 over 2. Now I can do that because when I multiply by 2 over 2, because 2 divided by 2 is 1, so I'm really multiplying by 1, which doesn't change the fraction. It changes the numbers, but it's still the same size fraction. It's just an equivalent fraction. Okay, so if I do that, I'm going to get 4 over 12 plus 5 over 12. Now, if you remember what you're doing with fractions is what you need to do is you need to, if you have common denominators, then you add the numerators, okay? So in this case, my numerators are 4 and 5, so I add 4 plus 5, which is 9. But the denominator doesn't change because I'm still adding 12s, all right? And now this is where your brain's got to come in. You got to look at that and be like, hey, can I reduce that fraction? I happen to know that I can divide both of those by 3. And if I do 9 divided by 3, I get 3. And if I do 12 divided by 3, I get 4. And that is my final answer. All right. Last example for these notes. And we'll go from, and then you'll be free to do your work when I see you in class next. So mixed numbers. You can't just add the 1 and the 3 and the 1. You're not going to get the right thing. So what I want you to do is turn these into improper fractions first and then add them. So if we want to do improper fractions, we're going to do this, if you remember from above, times plus times plus. So 4 times 3 plus 1 gives me 13 over 4 plus 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7 over 5. Now, you have to use common denominators still. It doesn't change. So if I'm looking at common denominators, since I have a 4 over here and a 5 over there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the first fraction by 5 over 5 and the second fraction by 4 over 4. And the reason I can do that, again, is I'm not changing the problem, but I'm making the denominators the same. So if I do that, I get 65 over 20 plus 28 over 20. Now, if you notice, when I did that, is now I have 2 common denominators. So if I have the common denominators, I can add the numerators. So if I add the numerators, I'm going to get 93 over 20. Now you can check and make sure that those match up, or there's no way to reduce that. I know there's no way to reduce it. So that's my final answer. You don't have to turn it back into a mixed number. You can leave it as an improper fraction. All right, and there are your notes for this lesson.